Alright, world, we are back. My name's Kyle Fischl. This is the next episode of my poker vlog. And after we were buried the last two times we were here at Sarasota, Florida, One Eye Jack's Poker Club, we're here on a Saturday night. It's about 5 p.m. right now. Hopefully we can get some of our losses back and have a good day today. On the first hand of note, we look down at the Ace of Diamonds, King of Clubs, and with 4 limps, I'm in the big blind. I make it $40. Thinking this is definitely going to thin the field to heads up, but on this one, the cutoff and the button decides to call, so we end up going 3 ways to a flop, which comes Jack 7-6 Rainbow. I'm going to do a lot of checking when I'm out of position. Out of position to 2 different players is going to be no exception from me. When I check on this one, the cutoff checks and the button checks. So I very much doubt either opponent has a jack anymore. And when the turn is the deuce of diamonds, I think this is a very good spot to go for a large bet here. As I would check my entire range, I could actually still have ace jack, queens, kings. I am not sure that my opponents even know that, which is less than ideal, but because we have the ace of diamonds, we're definitely going to throw in the second barrel on any diamond river cards when called and we don't make a pair. But to this $90 bet, the cutoff folds and the button takes a little bit of time before folding as well. So we start out this session with a little bit of momentum. Feels good to win the first one. Not huge by any means, but starting off in the right direction is going to be a great confidence boost.
How's that for confidence building?
We get our favorite angle for filming before we look down at Jack 8 of diamonds at the +2 spot. When fold to me, I open at $20, which brings along the hijack, button, and small blind. So we end up going 4 ways to a flop, which is 10-9-4 with 2 clubs. When the small blind checks to me, I decided this hand is a pretty good one to deviate my high frequency checking out of position to multiple people. Reason being, with my exact open-ended draw, the times I hit my straight, it's going to be super disguised, even more so when I bet the flop. We don't really expect a club draw to fold or jack queen, but when I throw a continuation bet for $65, I expect all 10s to just call, all 9s to just call, and even those draws as mentioned to just call, so we can pretty easily navigate post-flop almost perfectly. But to my $65 bet, the hijack calls, and then the small blind raises to $300. Small blind has over 3K in his stack, so this isn't even like a large bet for him. He could just be testing the water, seeing where he's at with a random 10 or flush draw some of the time, as this board is generally not great for a pre-flop aggressor. But thinking I only have jack high and would definitely need to hit a straight and possibly one that does not include a club to be able to win this hand, I'm just going to let this one go right now. The hijack then rips and the small blind calls, and we have like a $4,000 pot. The run out would not have given me a straight, so pretty happy to make the fold here. And the hijack shows 10-9 offsuit, so ran smack into him, and since the small blind doesn't show, I assume he had some kind of club draw. But this will mean that this pot is not going our way, but maybe we can bounce back with pocket jacks of the black variety. When I button straddle, there are 4 callers before it's on me. I raised it up to $60. In hindsight, this is much too low. I need to go 80 or 90 based on how many limpers I had. But in game, we choose 60, and only the +1 player decided to make the call. We are going heads up to a flop, which comes 7-6-5 with 2 clubs. And it's on my opponent, and he actually looks very strong. He is certainly giving the vibes that he is seriously contemplating a lead here, which I would completely understand. This board's definitely better for a limp caller than a raiser. But he eventually checks after a little bit of thinking, and based on the live read, I decided to check this one back. Try to get a little closer to showdown, as the jacks here are either slightly ahead of like pair plus flush draw, straight draws, and actually like crushed against his 2 pair and sets. But when I check it back, the turn is the queen of diamonds.
Way out of line. It's not what I wanted, okay?
Not my favorite, it's an overcard, and my opponent now bets $75. And as played, when I do choose to check back the flop, I'm certainly going to call 1 turn bet and see what develops. And when I call, the river is the 10 of diamonds. And now my opponent bets $100. Massively lower in relation to the size of the pot as his turn bet. So I think his hand is a little bit weaker than it was on the turn. So I think my opponent's kind of relegated to like 7, 8, maybe pocket 8s, pocket 9s. All would have this very strong flop and turn thought, but then not feel too comfortable on the river. I'm going to pay this one off. I want to see what my opponent has. And he flips over 1 card at a time. First one is 9 of clubs. Second card is queen of clubs. Well, gutter plus flush draw is never going to fold to a flop bet, and they're going to turn top pair and probably get more money if I just c-bet flop standardly. So we are beat on this one, but not entirely unhappy with how I played it, except maybe the river call. For the next hand of note, need to give a little context of this player that I'm versing. Our opponent is sitting in the 1 seat directly to the left of the dealer, and that huge stack of black chips in front of him is all profit. He tried to buy in with $300, was forced to top to $400, and he's ran it up to about 3.5k, playing extremely wild, extremely splashy, and kind of just smacking everything. But with one limp, I'm in the low jack. I raise it to $25 with 3-4 of clubs. Going for a little mix-up, try to get some board coverage. The lowest suited connectors are always going to get paid when they connect with their hand. And when I make it $25, our friend in the cutoff decides to raise it to $46.
What a choice.
Okay, sure. He makes a joke that it's $1 higher than a min raise, and yeah, I can confirm that is what it is. This brings along the small blind and one of the limpers, so we end up going 4 ways to a flop because I'm not folding for $21 to win piles. And we get a pretty good flop. It's 9, 5, deuce, rainbow, 1 club. We again have open-ended, this time backdoor clubs. We're feeling pretty good about this hand. On this flop, the pre-flop min 3-better decides to continue for $134. Yes, he is definitely a fan of the non-standard $5 increment bets. But with our hand open-ended backdoor flush draw, we are certainly calling this one with the near certainty of getting a full double up the times my hand hits. And when I call, the turn is the 5 of spades. And upon seeing this, my opponent snap checks out a turn. And in my experience, every time I've seen this from a recreational player, it is like the most nutted hand ever, trying to feign weakness, trying to get a stab out of their opponent. And to be quite honest, it almost got me on this one. Mainly because I only have 4 high, my hand has absolutely no showdown value, so any way to get my opponent to fold would probably be pretty profitable. But after what I remember the snap check out of position from recreational player usually means, I decided to check it and make his check stand and hopefully hit my free card. But the river is the 8 of clubs. And part of me wants to just lead on this one because, again, I only have 4 high and checking is certainly a give up. But I think my opponent gave me a lot of information with his turn action. And after I check, he does a little hemming and hawing before bombing it for $325. I would say all the shenanigans combined is just a 5 almost always, maybe even pocket 9s. But we will certainly not be losing any more money on this hand.
You thought you had me, but you didn't. You thought you had me, but you didn't. Hey.
And when I fold, our stack has certainly dwindled, so we have to top off. We're now into the game for $2,500 and only have 15 in front of us. Less than ideal. But I am hoping that Ace-King can help me turn it around. I'm in the cutoff, and versus 2 limps, I raise to $30. Don't think I need to go too big with this one. I'm in position for the whole hand, most likely. And when the button folds, the big blind, small blind, and both limpers decide to call. So we end up going 5 ways to a flop, which is Ace-8-4 rainbow. We have top on a super dry, super disconnected board. With the betting lead, this is a pretty good situation. And when all my opponents checked me, part of me wanted to check this one back because we're still betting into 4 players. Literally any one of them can have ace-4 or pocket 4s, but we're not going to let fear drive our action. We're going to bet small here, try to get value from random 8s, random pocket pairs, worse aces. When I bet $40, it doesn't take too long for the small blind, who was our wild friend, to raise it up to $130. Everyone else folds, which I'm pretty happy about, and when it's on me, we are certainly not going anywhere against this player type, certainly not going anywhere with our exact holding. So when I make the call, the turn is the queen of diamonds. I actually quite like this one. I expect my opponent to 3-bet ace-queen a lot of the time, so I don't think this actually introduces any 2 pairs at all. And as my opponent is first to act, he reaches deep and bets $275. Quite a large bet, but not really that big for the game. There have been plenty of massive bets so far at this table. And I don't think it's a good idea to just assign players the ability to just raise with absolute air and bluff it off multiple streets. But this is one of the few players that, through what I've seen, I do believe has the full air in him some of the time. So when I call, I am certainly planning on calling down nearly any river. But the river is the king of clubs, so now it's like the easiest call down ever. My opponent bets $400, and I probably should have thought about this longer but I actually thought he just had full air here most of the time, along with a sliver of pocket 4s. But I do think I should consider raising, targeting exactly ace 8 and ace 4, which I think are definitely possible as well. But in game, I just snap call and show my hand immediately. I just thought my opponent was completely bluffing here and had absolutely nothing, so no interest in making him show. He kind of shakes his head and says there's no way I call river but if a king does not come. I definitely disagree with that, and I would say that gives me a little bit more evidence that my opponent was pure bluffing, as he's not really acting as though he got unlucky that his hand got cracked, and more that he got unlucky that I got there to a point where I'm never folding. Either way, certainly the biggest hand for me. I'm quite happy to take it in.
If you want to give me your money like that, sure, I'll check it out.
Brings us almost to even on the day, which I love. Let's try to get to full even because we're in the low jack. We look down at ace queen offsuit, and when it's just folded to me, I make it $20. No reason to go too big with it. And maybe I should have because the hijack, cutoff, button, big blind, small blind, all call. We're going 6 ways. Definitely a good action table. And we flop top pair again. This time ace 9 6 with 2 spades. So top pair, there's some draws out there that we're not really happy about. But when we're early to act, like there's so many players left to act behind. And is ace queen even good against 5 opponents? I don't think so all that often, to be honest.
But we are going to find out one way or another.
So I'm just going to check it. And when I check, the hijack bets $80. And then the cutoff calls the $80. All right, not feeling too great. Then the button calls the $80. And it folds back to me. I mean, you could probably just fold right now. It's kind of weak, but I mean, 3 people have shown pretty significant interest in this hand, and you only have top pair without really a whole lot of chance to improve, and there's a lot of draws out there, but I'm just not going to fold just yet. I put in the $80, and the turn is the 10 of clubs. Really bad one for a lot of reasons. Ace 10 is one of the hands we're beating no longer. 7-8 is the most obvious straight draw, and that completes. And when I check, the hijack continues for $100. So obviously smaller from relation to the bet size on the flop, probably because there was so much interest in the hand. Cutoff folds, and the button's thinking for a little bit. I'm hoping he folds, because if he folds, I can just call, and I think I'm still ahead of this player specifically. But the button raises to $500. Certainly not ahead of the button almost ever. I mean, he probably just has 7-8 because seems like an obvious spot to just have 7-8 as played across all betting lines. Pre-flop, flop, and turn all make sense. So I just fold ace queen now. Probably could have saved $80 on the flop, but still think it's a little too weak to fold top pair. Good kicker to 1 bet. And then the flop and turn aggressor gets it all in, and the button does have 7-8, and when 2 jacks come 7-8 will still be the best hand. And it does show how much action's at this table. There is money to be had at these Sarasota streets on Saturday night. But we're definitely building a pretty massive stack, winning some small ones, winning some decent ones. And on the next hand of note, I beg you to bear with me and look at this still frame, as my phone was on the charger, could not get the live footage of this hand, but it is too interesting not to include. So I look down at ace of clubs, king of spades from the under the gun spot. I raise to $20. The +1 player raises to $55. The cutoff calls, and when it's back on me, when it's under the gun versus under the gun +1 3-bet, I think that these configuration is pretty bad to put in a 4-bet. So I choose to just call as well. We end up going 3 ways to a flop, which comes king 7 deuce all hearts. I actually love this flop. Think I have the best hand here most of the time. Think my opponent has like queens, jacks pretty often as we do block pocket aces, but that's not impossible. My opponent immediately looks at his cards, which I assume is a heart check. And when I check it to the under the gun +1 player, he checks. Last player to act checks as well. We are 3 ways to a turn card, which is the ace of spades. Love this card even more. Only 1 combination of aces, and if my opponent had pocket aces with the ace of hearts, he most certainly would have bet flop. But if my opponent had ace X, I think that a check here is going to get him to bet here a lot of the time. And he started the hand with only $600, so I check. The +1 player bets $100. The other player in the hand folds, and it's on me. And he only has about $500 total in his stack right now, and I think this is the time to just get it in. My opponent could easily have like ace, jack, jack of hearts, maybe pocket queens or pocket jacks with a single heart, just using their range advantage and kind of going for a delayed c-bet when the board favors them a little bit more, and then falling back on their draw if needed. But we are not going to let any of that happen. I check raise all in for $500 effective. I believe I have the best hand. I believe my opponent has like 20% equity at best to hit on single 4-liner flush. And after a bit of tanking, my opponent eventually puts in the call. I ask him if he wants to run it twice. He agrees to twice. I show my hand, and he actually has ace, queen, no heart. So he's actually drawing dead, and on one of the runouts actually hits a queen anyway, so kind of insult to injury. We make a massive over 1K pot here, and unfortunately didn't get it on camera. But the Sun one will continue because when an early position player makes it $25, cutoff calls, I'm on the button with 7-5 of diamonds. I make the call. We end up going 3 ways to a flop, which comes bink 6-4-3 rainbow. We flop the absolute joint. And when the early position player checks, cutoff bets $65. At this point, I have to like pretend to be weak for a few seconds because
Nothing.
because the cutoff only has about $150 behind, but the other player in the hand has a very big stack, so we have to definitely entice him to get in there. So after a little bit of thinking, I just make the call here, still trying to look kind of weak, but then the other player in the hand folds. Not my favorite outcome. Turn is the king of hearts, and my opponent announces all in. And no need to Hollywood anymore.
I knew it.
I snap call and just show my hand. And when I normally ask to run it twice, it's because usually the equities are pretty close. On this one, I actually assume my opponent's drawing stone dead. And when he sees my cards, he doesn't really react like he's going to win the hand at all, ever. So no discussion is had on this one. The dealer peels the 3 of hearts on the river, which actually completes a lot. If my opponent had a set or a flush draw, both of those get there. But I think this opponent just has a single pair a lot of the time on the turn, so that's not going to be good enough. And indeed, my flop straight is going to win another decent sized pot. The stack is continuing to grow. We feel pretty good about it. Before we look down at black pocket 10s from the big blind, the button raises to $20 after an under the gun limp. And this is not going to be a time where I 3-bet. The button in this hand is one of the tighter players at the table, so not really interested in 3-betting out of position against tighter than normal ranges, even though it's the button. And when I call, the under the gun player calls as well, so we end up going 3 ways to a flop, which is 5-4-3 rainbow. So now we're feeling very good about our hand. We have an overpair. We check it. We don't have the betting lead. The button continues for $20, and it's such a small bet. I just assume he has like ace, king, ace, queen a lot of the time. Maybe even 6s, 7s, 8s are also possible, but certainly don't think he's got a hand better than mine at this point, so I'm going to raise here. I could easily have any 2 pair, any straight, any set, and my hand is probably good, but likely vulnerable against his ace-x holdings. So I raise to $80, and the other gun player folds. The button takes his time, really thinks it over, and then eventually makes the call. Not too happy to see that. Even less happy to see the queen of hearts on the turn. I really thought he had ace, king, ace, queen, and when I'm first to act, I'm going to bet here and really just hope he has ace, king, and folds, because ace, queen is certainly calling, and they definitely got there on me. And when I make it $110, he goes into the tank again, and ace, queen, I do think would go into the tank. They're still thinking, like, you know, does this opponent have 2 pair or a set, but they certainly aren't going to fold ace, queen. But whatever my opponent had, he eventually does let it go, so we win another medium-sized pot. Feel pretty good about this one, like how I played it. Which brings us to the final hand of note. I look down at king jack of hearts in the under the gun spot. I raise to $30 after a button straddle. The +1 player is the only caller. Everyone else folds, and we are heads up to a flop, which is king 7-6 rainbow with 1 heart. We flop top pair, good kicker. Backdoor hearts as well, feel pretty good. But we do a lot of checking out of position, and this one we're going to do as well. See what my opponent wants to do, get some information based on his action. And he bets pretty big. He bets $50. We certainly aren't folding to this bet, but some alarm bells are definitely going off in my head. And when I make the call, we turn the bink jack of spades. We could not be happier seeing this turn card, but we do not have the betting lead. Is that going to slow me down? Absolutely not. I lead for $75. This lead is certainly a deviation, and it's because my opponent could easily have ace-jack, ace-queen, ace-10, pocket 8s, pocket 9s, pocket 10s, 7-8, maybe 8-9. There's just so many hands that are going to c-bet the flop when checked to that are just middling strength, and when checked to on the turn are going to take their free card and go to the river. We can't let these middling strength hands get to dictate the hand anymore, so we're just going to lead out for $75, keep putting money in the pot when we turn 2 pair. My opponent makes the call, and then the river is the 4 of hearts. So now when my opponent calls the turn, I actually think that he has a king here a lot of the time. Maybe 7-6 as well, that would be awesome, but we certainly think we have the best hand here. We want to bet relatively big here. What is the most we think our opponent can pay us off if he has a king? And I settle on $225. My opponent ends up calling very quickly, and I show my hand, and he has king-queen, so we actually got nearly the maximum. I like how I played this hand. Maybe my opponent bets turn, but if he has king-queen, he bets turn, and I check raise. That looks a little bit stronger in my opinion. I think it gives my opponent a chance to fold, so happy with the lead, continue on the river on this one. And we end up booking a large win on this game. We are into the game for $2,500, out of the game for $3,360. Across 4 hours is a profit of $860, which equates to $215 an hour or 43 big blinds an hour.
Gonna record this in the poke room so I don't forget later. I mean, today was quite a turnaround. We somehow sun ran a little bit, had some good plays go our way, and you know, when you're versing confirmed maniacs, sometimes you've got to make the decision to call down. Luckily on the ace-king hand, when we made that decision, we river a king and it makes our decision even easier, but we are certainly calling versus a specific player type on that one. And you know, what else to say? Today's a good day. Hopefully the next day will also be a good day. And if you've made to this point, I appreciate you for watching. If you'd like the video, that would also be very helpful to me. And I will see you on the next one.